This is Coogan Cassius for IFL TV. We're in Manchester here for the Frochton Groves undercard press conference ahead of Saturday night, Battle of Britain. With me, I have a man who's responsible for about 50 fights on the undercard, Joe Gallagher. 4 fights. What's happening, Joe? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, Coogan, you?
Yeah, you sell that, didn't you? Every time Gallagher goes on the press conference, it's like you sell the fight better than anyone else talking, including Eddie.
I don't know whether I do or not. It's just I have a feeling I'm involved. I know what the fight's about. I'm a Manchester kid, born and bred. I grew up with that scene with Colliers. The Phil Martin was part of that successful champs camp. I've watched the Ricky Hatton Gomez years coming through here, and now to be part of it. Great Manchester's only ever had 5 world champions, and Scott Quigg's the 5th one. So it's a proud night for me to this big arena, 20,000, to walk out with my world champion, and it's just a proud night. And for the people who helped me along the way, my trainers Jimmy Egan and the late great Phil Martin, I know they'll be smiling down on me, and it's a real proud night and an emotional night for me.
Very interesting comments from yourself in the press conference. Why did you disclose that, what you said about not really wanting to take that fight?
With Steve Foster?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got a phone call Sunday morning. Eddie says, Joe, Steve Foster. I went, what about him? He says, what about him for a fight? And I said, no. And he says, oh, well, his old man's been on. He said, I'll step in for Crawler. And I'm like, really? I said, I don't want to fight Steve Foster. I said, I trained him as an amateur. He came to me after winning the novice under 10s. We won the novice under 20s by Christmas, and he was ABA champion by May. So in the one season, we won the novices and the ABAs. He beat Martin Power in the final, who was a huge underdog. He was 13 points down after round 2, come back and win. Year later, he won the ABAs again. And then he got to the world quarterfinals in 2001 with Froch and David Hay, all them boys, that team. So we turned pro together. We made our debut together at the Phones for You Arena, at the MEN Arena as it was then in 2001. Why do I want to go against a kid that I have an affinity with? And I said no. And Eddie came on, Joe, this. We went through a whole list of opponents. Jorge Linares was the opponent that I agreed on in the end for Crawler. People were surprised at that, but it's a good fight. He's a good fighter, and I think that's where Crawler is and the level he's at the moment. But Eddie said there wasn't enough money in the pot. They were pricing themselves out of it. And right just before midnight, he said to me, Foster's working on a building site, he's got no money, it'll be a payday for him. I don't buy into all that stuff. He may be working everything else, but his old man's a legend round here. He knows the game in and outs, and I'm not going to fall in it for any old fox's tales and stories. I just know it's a dangerous fight. I think Steve Foster is a better fighter as the opponent. He's proved that in all his career. When he was up against Leverkusen for the European, no one gave him a chance, he knocked him out. When he went up to Scotland with Alex Arthur, no one gave him a chance, nearly did him. But when he has been the favourite, didn't beat Derry Matthews, didn't beat Gary Buckland, and then obviously, like you say, he lost to Fagatelli for the European. Steve Foster's a dangerous fighter. He's had no pressure for 8 weeks coming up to the fight. He's had no build-up, no tickets, no talk. And you can see him, he's just bouncing. Yesterday, Sunday, he got the phone call. Monday, he's off work. He's at a presser today. He's at a weigh-in tomorrow, whenever it is, Friday. The next thing he's in the ring. He's had no time to sit and stress on it. Crawler had the wind took out of his sails Saturday. And he's like down. Sunday, though, the Foster fight, they've sparred together. I used Crawler for sparring Steve for the ABAs. That's how far and the underlying currents it is. So, to answer your question, no, I didn't really want the fight. And I phoned Eddie on Monday after I agreed. Monday morning, I went, Eddie, I don't want the fight. I'm not feeling... It doesn't sit well with me. I don't want to be on the other side of it. And that's no disrespect thinking, we've got to beat Steve Foster, but it's a horrible situation to be in, to planning to beat somebody that we're against when you've had that such close relationship for years.
Are you disappointed that Anthony Crawler won't get a chance to recapture his old British title?
Of course, I know how much it meant to Anthony, and also to become a 2-time British champion. There's a lot of 2-times in the gym at the moment. Paul Smith, Stephen Smith, and Anthony would have been the next 2-time British champion. But like you say, he's got the WBO Intercontinental title. He's fighting a very, very good fighter, a dangerous fighter, and it'll be a good win for him. He's had an excellent career, and he can't sit on his laurels now after the win off Gavin Rees thinking he's made it. He's got to go out there and prove that he is the good fighter that performed against Gavin Rees, against young Steve Foster Jr. now, in front of 20,000. If you can't get motivated for that, we've got problems.
Moving on to Scott Quigg now. Do you feel like this fight here, Scott will use it as a chance to just, after all the commotion from the first fight, he's world champion, that's the bottom line to it, but just to cement that place as a champion with this fight against Silva?
Yeah, definitely. He's got not to get too worked up and think about that and go out there and be too eager to quick to try and please the fans and everything else. He's got to go out and do what Scott Quigg does. I think the thing with Scott Quigg and the beauty and the nature of him, he adapts and applies himself. The Scott Quigg that fought Jason Booth wasn't the Scott Quigg that fought Rendell Monroe. The Scott Quigg that beat Rendell Monroe wasn't the Scott Quigg that fought Salinas. Scott Quigg's adapted again in training now for this style of fighter, and he'll go out and adapt and apply it and come out with the win again. It'd be fantastic if he goes out there and gets a win within the first 6 rounds, but no matter how the win comes and looking good about it, like I say, that's the main thing, is him winning and keeping hold of that world title. We don't want to go a bit gun crazy and then getting took out of there. This kid's a dangerous puncher. He's got a high knockout percentage. He's fought for Fernando Montiel and got knocked out within a round, but he worked himself into that position to fight within 3 rounds, and he got himself in that position to fight for the world title. So he's no fool. He's on a good run. I think it's 5 or 6 fights. So like I say, it's a dangerous fight for Scott Quigg. He's got nothing to lose. Quigg's got everything to gain and more, and to like I say, shut up the doubters once and for all.
If you had the choice, what would you rather have next year? Would you rather have a unification fight with Martinez or the fight with Frampton?
Well, listen, Carl Frampton, it's amazing how when we get offered the fight and we don't take it, earlier on in the season we said we were wanting to become a world champion. We got stick for it. Eddie offered Carl Frampton a huge amount of money last time for the fight, and they've come out after the fight and said, no, we're going another way. He was European mandatory champion. He knew he had to fight Kid Galahad, but he gave the belt up instead of fighting him. That's the truth to it, Kugan. He gave the kid European belt up, and he's going to try to fight for a world title. He had an opportunity to fight Scott Quigg straight away. There it is. Not necessarily this show, but agreed the fight, but he didn't take it. So we're not ducking no one. So after this fight, obviously Scott Quigg's got to win. I think we've got to deal with our mandatory then, and then hopefully then get Kiko Martinez. And we've already planned out. I've said to Scott, after we fought Kiko Martinez, if you're still your world champion and we've won, then we'd love the Santa Cruz fight. They're the 3-4 fights for Scott Quigg in 2014. Carl Frampton, we've offered it. We're not keep addressing this. We've offered him a huge amount of money to fight Scott Quigg. He didn't take the challenge and he's gone his own route. So that's the end of that. We've offered it. There it is, and he hasn't took the fight. We've moved on now, and they're the 3-4 fighters that we want next year.
Okay. Stephen Smith. Eddie looks like he's putting Stephen Smith on this route to the WBC title with this international title, which will lead him on to the silver title, which could put him in line for the world title next year. So Eddie knows what he's doing with this route.
You've only got to see the fantastic job he's done with Brian Rose. Brian Rose, British champion, all of a sudden he's fighting for a world title within 3 or 4 fights. Stephen Smith, at the age he is, 28 years of age, is coming out what I see as the knockout of the year over Gary Buckland. I think to himself he's at the right time, he's at the right place in his career, 28 years of age, going off a career best performance, and it moves him on from domestic level. He didn't want to get stagnated down at domestic level, he's moved on now. This is a dangerous fighter that is fighting, a dangerous fighter. He's fought for the world title himself, got beat, and you've seen him there, he's up for it, he's game for it, and it's an opportunity for him. He lost to Secudio, who's the WBC number 3. He's already lost to him in a close points fight, so he'll be wanting the rematch with him. We're looking to beat him, to fight him. He's number 3 in the world. So like you say, it's a fantastic opportunity. I know Eddie and the team at Matchroom can deliver for Stephen Smith, but Stephen's got to take care of business, like the same with Crawler. They can't live on past performances, i.e. Gary Buckland and Gavin Rees.
Finally on to Scotty Cardle. Had like 11 fights in his first year.
12, yeah, he did. He's at 12 now, yeah.
But then after that, it slowed down for him a little bit.
That bad injury when he won the Central Area title. He came back and fought in Scotland on the Ricky Burns bill. Had a good win. Like I said, damaged his hand in the 4th, so that's kept him out a little bit. It's just been unlucky, and that's the way it works sometimes. I was trying to explain to fighters, all of a sudden, you can be fighting loads, like he was, and all of a sudden you have an injury to an injury to his hand, and it slows down. But things happen for a reason. That could be for him to slow down, reassess himself, do some strength work, get better, and use that time constructively, not to just sit at home playing PlayStations, eating food and not living the life. Use that constructive, be in the gymnasium, keep learning, keep training, and better yourself. You may not be getting the fights, but just better yourself. Jose Burton at the gym at the moment is one of the most improved fighters. Not many people have seen him fight, but I'm telling you what, the improvement in him, he's outsparring Matthew Macklin at the moment in Marbella, is tenfold, because he's made his time out of the ring constructive and to use.
Just finally, just give us a quick prediction for the big fight. I know you've got a big fight, but there's another big fight. Frost and Groves. Give me a prediction for this, Joe Gallagher.
Well, George Groves has got a style that I can see causing Carl problems. Very much what everyone seems to be saying. I wouldn't be surprised if George pulled it off in a close turns decision, but I do feel Carl sooner or later we'll get to George Groves and set about him, put stuff. But he's got to be careful. He can't come in with his hands down and getting caught. He's got to be smart. Carl's operated at a high level for a longer, and I think that experience should hold him instead for George Groves. And I expect we could easily have a Butte type performance from Carl Froch, a motivated, fired up Carl Froch against Butte. We could have Saturday night, and if we do, George Groves is in trouble.
And will Adam Booth be in the corner?
I think Adam Booth will pop up somewhere. He's his manager. He's still his manager, as far as I'm aware. That the board ruling that he still has to pay him and his manager. So, as a manager's role, I do feel he will be in and around. The manager does turn up on the night to take care of financial matters.
Interestingly as well, Andy Lee's on the bill now.
Well, there you go.
So
Adam Booth is in the building.
He's definitely in the building, but whether he's in George's corner, we'll have to wait and see. All right,
Lord's appearing.
I think some of the odd makers have got him 3-1 on to be in.
They're not betting on it, are they? You're joking, mate. They're not betting.
I think someone told me they have. Check that out. I think someone told me they're odd somewhere.
Wow, I might give Adam a ball and see is he coming up. I'll put a wager on it.
I know. All right, Joe, I've got one more interview to do, and that's your world champion Scott Quigg. Brilliant. Then I'm done. So thank you for talking to IFL TV. We'll catch up with you this week.
2 seconds. Really enjoyed your work this week. Fascinating interview that last night with Paddy, George Groves' trainer. Really enjoyed it, and keep up the good work, mate. You're doing. You're knocking it out for fun, mate.
Even though he had me on the back foot with a couple of.
No, but listen, it was good. There's not many interviews with him, and he's a fascinating character, and he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff, that fella.
Right, thank you very much. That means a lot. Right, it's Kugan Cassius with Joe Gallagher here for IFL TV here in Manchester. Thank you very much.